What up, Lions? Welcome back to another episode of The Humble Lion. We got Alex with us in studio today.
Hey.
What's up? Today we're talking about anxiety and depression. These are my favorite topics to talk about because this is why I started the podcast. I honestly don't feel like you can talk enough about these topics because every person has a different perspective to bring and different stories to share. So I'm really, really, really grateful that you are here wanting to open up about yourself and share your story about this. So
For sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely, of course.
When did this start? This journey of did it hit you all at once? Anxiety, depression, boom, like a freaking rock? What?
It did. It was a crazy kind of experience, and everyone knows what it's like to feel sad. Everyone experiences that in their life, but I feel like anxiety and depression just take it to a whole nother level. And I remember it was when I was in journalism school. We
went to school together, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, J school.
Yeah, so we were about midway through. I was in my second year, and it was in the winter. And I should probably premise this by saying I was a hockey coach for 8 years.
Okay.
So at this time, I was coaching my girls, and they are between 14 to 17 years old.
Okay.
And it was just an exhibition game. We were going to a local arena and whatnot. And I immediately, we were behind the bench. All of a sudden, I was I feel tightness in my chest. Out of nowhere. Completely out of nowhere. And then it started to get worse and worse, and my vision just started going blurry. Yeah. And I was like, what's going on? So I asked my coach if I can excuse myself, and he was my second father, so he was kind of worried. He was like, all right, sure. So I ran outside in the middle of a Montreal winter, and you and I both know that's minus 40 weather.
Yeah.
And I just fell to the ground. Wow. I fell to the ground, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't see, and I was like, am I having a heart attack? What is going on?
Yes.
So I had my car keys, and I went into my car, and I just started screaming, at the top of my lungs, crying and screaming. Everything just seemed like I was gonna die. That's what it really feels like. It just feels like you're gonna melt away into nothing.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad were in the audience, and they saw me run out, and my mom was like, are you okay? And she saw I was just a mess. So she's like, I'm gonna take you home. So we drove home, and that entire night, I didn't sleep, and I was just telling them, it all seems like it's just too much. I was in school full time, taking a full course load. I was working about 30 hours a week on top of coaching this team that travels all over Quebec. So it was a lot, and I felt really lonely because I wasn't with anybody at the time. And I felt like I was just doing things for everyone else, and I wasn't doing anything for myself. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to be in school anymore. It's just it's all just coming to this huge boiling point, and I can't seem to find a means to an end. So I'm rattling this off to my parents, and my mom stayed with me the whole night because I just couldn't sleep, and I was just crying the entire time.
So when I was doing, let me also say, your experience that you just described, I just went through 2 weeks ago. And it's insane to hear that panic attacks manifest the same way, to the point where you think that you're going to freaking die.
Yeah.
And I was doing research because I was very curious to see what is the cause of panic attacks. And it's everything that was happening in your life, you don't know where to go. It's there are so many roads, and everything is so important to you, but you don't understand what's happening, and you feel like maybe you need to figure it out or what? I don't know. But there are different causes, and for me, it was getting off of medication, and we can talk about medication. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about, did you feel like you were trying to pick a road? Did you feel scatterbrained? And what do you think caused it? Just too much to handle life?
Yeah, the analogy of a fork in the road, and you can choose two different paths. So I always saw that, and when I had to make decisions, but in that moment, everything just went black. It was there was no road, there was no nothing, and it was my life was going nowhere. And that's what scared me, because I'm what am I doing? What am I actually doing? with my life. Like, I can't see past this moment, and that's really scary. When you think about it, it's like you see black. So what does that mean?
And so that's where the heart started beating really fast.
And it was just like, why am I coaching this team? Why am I going to journalism school? Why am I working for a company that I can't stand? You know, like, why am I doing this? And I try and deduce everything with logic. And when you're going through something like that, you can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. So I think that's what just, you know, gradually made it worse with every second.
So how did you shift your mindset then to understand what your purpose is? Because it all comes down to purpose.
Yeah.
Figuring out, like, okay, I had a panic attack because I need to get my life figured out. But then it's like maybe shifting your mindset to understand, why do I need to get everything figured out?
Yeah.
Have you had a panic attack since?
Yeah, I've had several.
Oh.
About, you know, like, different things. When I finally finished school, I didn't really know where I wanted to go. And I think that's not true. I think I did. Okay. I think I did know where I wanted to go. I was just too scared to take the risk. So I thought the safest thing to do would be to find a full-time job. So I did. And after about 3 or 4 months, I hated it. It was awful. It was nothing what I thought it was going to be like. And everybody kept telling me, just do it for the money, do it for the money. And I'm like, at one point, it's like money or happiness, pick one, you know? And I was sacrificing my happiness.
And your mental health.
And my mental health. And it was just for money. For what?
For what?
So.
Paper.
Exactly. So I eventually left that job. And then I was like, okay, we're back to square one now. Like, what are you going to do? So I found another similar.
And what kind of job did you pick?
It was marketing. And
okay, so like an office cubicle job.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then I was like, you know what, like, maybe I can just do the same thing, but maybe with something that interests me a little more. So I started working for like a really cool swimwear brand, doing social media. So I thought, awesome, I can do this. It was 2 sister companies of Body Glove.
Okay.
So I started, and I had a fantastic boss. We got along great. Mm-hmm. But then I started to notice the same pattern of the unhappiness starting to come back after a while. And for multiple reasons, all of which included the job itself. And I was like, you know what, maybe it's just this particular job that's making me unhappy. You know, maybe it's the structure of the job. Maybe it's something, you know.
Like the hierarchy, something.
Right, right. So that ended. And like right around that time, I actually decided to go and take a tour at CJD, Bell Media Stations.
Nice.
With Trudy Mason, who my mom went to high school with. So she was just showing me around, and she was like, you know what? If you're really serious about, you know, taking a leap of faith and doing this, I'll introduce you to our program director. He met me for like 5 minutes, and he was like, I need you to send me your demo reel. I was like, is this real life, right? So, you know, I went through that whole process.
To be a reporter.
It was just to kind of figure out like what I wanted to do. Like he was really putting an emphasis on, what do you want to do? I don't want to put you somewhere where you're not going to be happy. And I was like, oh my God, somebody who gets it, right? Yeah. So we had a whole conversation, and he was like, I want you to do an internship with CJD and TSN. So I was like, this is awesome, right? Yeah. And of course, like, internships are not paid. So I'm basically going from a full-time job with a salary to nothing. And it really, really freaked me out. And the 2 weeks leading up to my internship, I cannot tell you how many times I cried and just said to my mom, like, what am I doing, right?
Yeah.
So when I started doing the internship, that all went away because like your brain's kind of occupied, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not really thinking about things. And what was supposed to be a 2-week internship turned into 5.
That's amazing.
5 weeks.
Well, was it good?
It was amazing. Okay. It was the best experience of my life. And then 2 weeks after my internship ended, they called me and they said, we want you to start filling in over the holidays. So that's basically how it started for me being a freelancer for them.
That's what I think is amazing, is when you chase the opportunity and the happiness, everything else will fall into place in the end.
Right.
I want to know, your panic attacks.
Yeah.
So you've had 3.
I think I've had more than that. I think I've had maybe, in total since that first time, maybe like 4 or 5. I can't really put my finger on the right number, but around that.
And do you see like a pattern?
Mm-hmm.
So when's the last time that you had a panic attack?
I would say about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems pretty distant ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I've been getting better with them for sure.
Is there anything that has changed within the last 6 months?
Yes. I think the thing that's changed the most is probably just me over time in that 6 months, like really discovering who I am and what makes me happy.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like the randomest things hit you, right? Like I was on Instagram and I follow this one particular girl and she's really like hardcore, like all about being real with people. And she was like, if something is not making you happy, don't do it. Like get rid of it. And I was like, you know what? That is so
simple.
So simple, but so true.
And effective, man.
Yeah.
So what did you get rid of?
So I started getting rid of negative people. Just that's where I started. Like
your friend group.
Yeah. I was just like, you know what, and even family. I was like, you just gotta get rid of negative people because they're not doing anything beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. So I slowly but surely figured out like who my real friends were, who were really there for me when I was going through all of this crap.
How do you
right?
figure out then who your real friends are? Who's really got your back?
Well, when you're going through something like that and people can see that you're different and they can see that you're not yourself. And I remember when I was really open with it, especially on social media, a lot of my friends don't live in the city. They don't live in Montreal.
Okay.
They live in Ottawa or they live in the States, and they were all reaching out to me and they
That's
were
amazing.
like, you need something, you tell me. I don't care how far I am. We will Skype, I will drive to you, you tell me. And I was like, that's a friend. Like that is somebody you need in your life.
What about the people who don't have friends? What about the people who are struggling alone? Do you have any advice to give them?
I think if you're struggling by yourself, I think you really just need to look at yourself in the mirror and just look at yourself at like the worst point that you've ever been, whether it's like, you know, post panic attack or you're just having a bad day or something, and just tell yourself like, what is going on right now that's making you feel so badly about yourself?
Yes.
And like that voice in your head is your own voice being so nasty to you. But why? So
I feel like you have 2 voices. You have the voice that's being nasty to you, that's judging you, but you have the higher self, the one that understands what's happening. And you always have access to it.
Yeah.
So like I was telling you, I had my panic attack 2 weeks ago. And it followed a 3-month cycle of me taking medication. The medication was Ritalin. Okay, so I have ADHD and I've never taken medication in my life.
Right.
I decided, why not just take, I got diagnosed last year. My doctor walked in for 5 minutes. I was like, can I have help? He's like, what do you expect from me? I was like, well, I expect to like get some sort of therapy. Maybe you can like write up like a note for me to go see like a
something.
So because I did research on my own, I heard about cognitive behavioral therapy. I was like, oh, you know, talking about mindsets and like how to restructure, you know, thinking patterns, that could be really useful. So maybe if I go see a doctor who can prescribe me, or what's the thing when you like tell someone they have something? Diagnose me with ADHD, maybe then I can like be put on a list for whatever.
Yeah.
So all of this did not lead to that. It led to a bottle of Ritalin, which is just so sad where we're at with like dealing with, you know, anxiety and even to go further, our Medicare system and what we're doing with that. But anyways, so I left there with a bottle of Ritalin. Took it for 2 days a year ago, and I was like getting heart palpitations, and I was like, oh, this is weird, I'm gonna stop. So then I tried to deal with my own ADHD on my own. Then I just like 3 weeks ago got bored, and I saw, because I struggle with addiction, okay? A lot of weed, a lot of pre-workout, but those are light things. It's nothing like chemicals.
No.
But I decided to tamper in chemicals. So 3 weeks ago, I started taking a Ritalin pill, and I was like, ooh, this is fun. I was starting to clean my house. I was starting to just like be really clear thinking. So like I would do a lot of things. I would write a lot of lyrics. I would like have a lot of energy. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But you take with the consequences. So I
Always.
was getting weird things that I did not like a lot of headaches, a lot of heart palpitations, a lot of like sweaty hands. Then I started getting even more anxious, believe it or not, because Ritalin makes you anxious. Anyways, so after the 3 weeks of Ritalin, I couldn't sleep. I was starting to get just really horrible because chemicals is changing your anatomy.
Yeah.
Chemicals changes the way your brain thinks. And
Yeah.
over time, Ritalin can cause things like schizophrenia. It can cause a lot of things. I was about 11:30 at night, and I was writing lyrics, and all of a sudden exactly what you said happened to you. I swear to God, I'm just writing lyrics. Nothing is like triggering me, except for the fact that my internal voice is saying, you're taking a pill every day. That's pretty bad. Oh my God, you're dependent on a drug. Oh my God, judging. So this judgment that I held for myself, I think, is what caused my own panic attack. So I was like, oh my God. So I'm judging, and I'm probably writing a lyric about like, oh, you're taking a pill, whatever, and probably judging myself. All of a sudden, my heart starts beating really fast. I'm alone at night, and I'm in my chair. I'm like, oh my God, vision blurred, can't see. I was brought to my knees down, and I yelled for my boyfriend. I was like, Justin! He runs out of the room. I'm like, I think I'm gonna die. Like, I was so scared. And from then, like, I was like, never fucking touching a chemical for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Then I started doing research about anxiety, panic attacks. Actually, no, I didn't even know it was a panic attack. I was talking to my friend, and he said, I think you had a panic attack. I'm like, what? I had no idea. Then I did research, and I'm like, okay, chemicals can cause panic attacks, withdrawal from chemicals. So it had been like a week after that had happened. So all that to say, and I'm telling this story because it seems like there is a pattern. It seems like your inner voice and what you have going on in your life, the more pressure that you put on yourself, the more judgment that you put on yourself, it seems as though that makes you more anxious, which can literally physically make you ill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's crazy. So yeah, I completely agree. Look in the mirror, ask your higher self, what is going on for you to be this anxious? Do you hate your job? Quit it. Are you judging yourself because you know that there's something within your control that you can change? Stop taking pills if you don't need it. I was just taking it for fun. Like, I'm not saying that people who need ADHD medication shouldn't take it. I kind of want to say that because I don't think that they should. But I mean, if you need medication, then you need it.
Yeah.
But for me, maybe my approach to the medication was what caused the panic attack.
Very well could have been that, for sure. And I think, medication is such like a touchy thing.
It is a touchy thing.
Especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. Like, I knew somebody who was on depression medication, and she was always this bubbly, fun personality, and that's why we got along so well. And the minute she started taking it, it was like she was just like a one-note person.
Exactly.
The entire time I knew her after
that. It suppresses your personality. It's insane.
And that's just like, do you really want to live your life like that? Do you really want to not feel anything? And that's what made me decide, like, I'm not going to even touch medication when it comes to anxiety and depression. Like, I want, as bad as those panic attacks are, and I know you know that, I want to feel that. Because if I don't feel that, I won't know what my body needs and what my mind needs.
Exactly.
So I feel like it's really important when you're going through this whole process. Okay, I've been told I have anxiety and depression, but how am I going to handle it now? Do I really need the medication, or is it something that's manageable through, I don't even know like what you really call them, but through like steps that you can take, that you can remember to stop yourself.
Just mindset work.
Yeah, and that's super hard. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna, meditate or what. Like, no, it's so much more than like anything that you
meditation
really think.
Could be a first step.
Yeah.
But what else? How can you work on your mindset?
I mean, I think it's really doing the reps. Like, when you're feeling,
I like that.
when you're feeling sad, and you're like, okay, I'm not at the breaking point, but I'm feeling sad. So what steps can I take right now in this moment that I've learned that can make me feel better? And then when you feel better, that's when you can use logic to deduce, like, was I really being upset over nothing, or is this something that I have to really think about?
That's interesting, because after I had my panic attack and I started doing research, I realized, okay, I don't need the medication. And that was one thing I completely eliminated out of my life. It's been 2 weeks. I have not had a panic attack, but I really do believe it's the medication that caused it. What about for someone who isn't taking medication like you, the day after your panic attack? What's going through your head? What are you deducing to like get to a better spot?
Yeah, like I don't even know how to describe it other than I was not physically, but mentally and emotionally numb. I was numb.
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't know what was going on with me. And the funny thing is, like, we actually had radio the next day, our radio class.
Okay.
And I was like, I have to go to school now and be in front of people and be attentive.
And put on your face.
And be like, hey guys, because like I'm normally like a happy person.
Yeah.
So when I'm like, you know, like it's hard. So my mom drove me to school that day, and the whole time that I went through that day, I just couldn't get out of that like icky, numb feeling like it was going to happen again. It was like I was scared that it was going to happen again, but this time I was far from home. I had no way of getting home, and I had one friend around me that could help me. One. And it was just, it's so just, that gives you anxiety too, right?
You know what's crazy is that during the research, there's this thing called, I think it's called like postpartum panic. So you have the panic of having a panic attack. And so your heart starts beating and you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna like get a panic attack right now because my heart's beating fast.
Yeah.
So then you could self-induce another panic attack because you're stressed about having a panic attack. It's so fucked up.
It's crazy. Like I'm like, how does this
so
even?
Stupid.
It's so crazy how the mind works.
The mind is so powerful.
It is. It can control you. It can control the way you do things.
This is why I'm so against medication, because the minute that you take a pill, you are not in control of yourself anymore. Yeah. The minute that you smoke, and I can't believe that I'm saying this because I've been an advocate for weed forever. Like my last podcast, I'm like preaching weed, but I am saying this now because just for my podcast listeners, I grow with each podcast. So I'm sure that I contradict myself from 5 podcasts ago. Okay, whatever. But the minute that you inhale anything, like you're not you cannot think clearly because there's a substance that is clouding your judgment. So I sincerely believe that if you need to do work on yourself, it needs to be with a clear head. But I'm not a doctor, and if you really do need medication.
For sure. And it's funny you bring that up because that is one of the reasons that, like, I'm not, it's going to sound very conservative when I say this, but I am not a person who is for weed. I've done it before. And I've experienced whatever it's like, and I know that like almost everybody I know does it, but I'm just super against it.
How come?
Because I think it just, I don't know, like I think I've always had this stigma behind it. Like my parents were very much like no drugs.
So that's for sure your filter.
So that's definitely it. My parents were very conservative in that respect. And then, you know, when I grew up, I formed my own opinions and everything. And a lot of things that they taught me, some of the things I didn't agree with, but that one always stuck with me, and I'm just like, nope. And that might also be because I have anxiety, and I know that if I start to have, because it's happened before, if I've had a panic attack or I feel anxious and I'm also smoking weed, it makes it 10 times worse to try and control it. And it's happened before where I can't control it because I'm not in my right mind.
Yeah, because you're not in your right mind.
Yeah, and then you lose it, and you're like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to
But you weren't in front of the wheel.
Right.
This is the thing, though. For people who struggle with anxiety and depression, it's almost like you choose your vice, right? So I struggle also with depression, like feeling good.
Yeah.
So when I smoke weed, I have laughs that have never existed in my normal mind.
Yeah.
In my sober mind.
Right.
So I use the weed to literally feel happier. But then it's like, okay, why are you not feeling happy in your sober mind? Why don't you do the work and
like figure it out?
Build the foundation without it, and then use weed as the accessory to make you happy when you want it.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. I think the hardest thing for me is the judgment that comes from outside for both anxiety and depression.
It's honestly, it's so challenging to try and get people to just understand. And it's very easy to say, well, I have a support system, they get it. I have a support system too, they don't always get it. Do you know how long it took me to be able to convince my mom, my dad, my boyfriend, or whoever? My friends were okay, but it was really like my
circle,
my really close circle who didn't get it at first. And I had to go to therapy and learn tips in order to tell them
to cope with you.
Yeah, this is how you need to, it sounds dumb, but this is how you need to deal with me when I'm going through all this. And, a lot of times I'll get the comment like, you're not really feeling that. That's
the worst.
You're not really sad. You're just upset about this.
I'm stressed out too. You're not really depressed. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like.
Or the classic, everybody has anxiety, that's life. No.
Oh, that gets under my skin. Like, you have no idea.
There's a difference between like having anxiety because you're challenging yourself in your own life and suffering
from a panic attack that brings you to your knees.
That's right. And I think the major problem with me, at first anyway, was that I couldn't identify my own emotions. So that's why I was having the panic attacks, because I was like, am I sad? Am I crazy? Am I like, what's going on? And over time, like, you learn the signs, like, okay, I'm feeling this way. It's probably because I'm sad. I'm feeling this way. It's probably because I'm angry. And it helps you deal with whatever situation you're going through.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like when I was very open with the fact that like I never learned how to feel sad, how to feel angry, like I didn't know how to recognize it. So whenever I had a panic attack, people would tell me, well, you can't feel your emotions, so what do you know what's going on? And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is why I'm depressed, or this is why I'm anxious, like, and it's really frustrating, and it causes like screaming matches.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you look at yourself and you're like, well, were they right? Like, you start to second guess yourself, which is also a huge problem.
One of the things that I'm worried about is being too in my head when any of these episodes come up, when I'm going through a period, because we were talking before the podcast how you go through periods and like waves of either depression or anxiety. There could be one day even that I'm just like super, super anxious, and I'm like, okay, today I'm just not going to go to the gym or something because it's too much to handle. Or like, oh, I'm super depressed, and oh, it's leading into the next day, and you go through waves and waves and waves. What worries me is staying in my own bubble and making life about myself. So what's the difference between being selfish and healing yourself and getting out there and like forgetting about the fact that you're suffering, like stop being the victim? What is that fine balance? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, because I think it really is based on your personality.
Yes.
Because like, I'm not a selfish person, and I'm a very selfless person. I will always put myself ahead of other people. So I'm that person that if I have to cut somebody out of my life, it'll take me so long to do it because I will feel so bad about how the other person is feeling, versus what I should be thinking is, are you not happy? Then let them go. Like, what is it? They're not doing anything beneficial for you. Let them go.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to like wrap my brain around that half the time, because I'm always busy trying to please other people.
But I'm talking more about like, so I'm thinking about the times that I've struggled from depression, and how that manifests in me is I'll close myself off from people, and I'll be like, you need to heal now, you need to do work, you need to read books, you need to watch videos, you need to write, you need to stay in your bubble and lift yourself up. So that could be like, me secluding myself and trying to heal. But then again, then it like snowballs into like,
always,
okay, now I'm being selfish. Now I'm in my own thoughts. Now I'm judging other people. So yeah, I think it's a personality thing, because when I spend too much time alone, I become a different person, and I actually need to see and be with people to like not think about myself and judge myself and like
see, like, I'm afraid of doing that, like being like too closed off. That's why when I start to see something, I will go to somebody and like try and talk to them.
Okay.
Because if I close myself off, I know what's going to happen. I know it's going to snowball, and I know that it's just it could go off in a tailspin. So yeah, like I think it depends on like the type of person that you are and how you choose to deal with things. But I also think that if you're really suffering from it, even if it's just like a little bit, like you have to talk to somebody. Yeah.
Do you ever see people in your daily life who struggle with this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's not always easy to like spot people.
That's the thing.
Right? And I think like a lot of people look at me, like even at work, like they'll look at me and they're like, really? Like you suffer from that? And I'm like, I know. It doesn't look like I would, but yeah, I do. And I go through my bouts with it. And I could come to work one day with a big smile on my face, but inside I'm dying, you know? And like, it has happened. Or, you know, you have a really big opportunity or a really big meeting, and it just so happens that day you feel like crap.
Yeah.
And you got to fake it. And it's so hard.
Do you have to fake it though?
Oh yeah.
Do you? Because
Yeah.
I disagree.
Well, I think you do, only because sometimes it helps in the short term. I don't think it's a long-term solution, but I think it helps in the short term because it can get you through whatever you have to get through the day, and then you deal with it when you have time to deal with it. And then maybe that's just me because I'm scared of, like, the first time when I had a panic attack, it was in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
I'm scared that's going to happen again, so that's how I deal with it. I don't think it's the best way to deal with
managing.
it. Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking, like, if I had an emotion, I know what you mean, like, let that emotion pass for the greater good of maybe the meeting or the opportunity. Let that emotion pass. But right now in this moment of time, and I don't know if it's right either, but this is how I'm dealing with it. If an emotion affects me negatively, I will bring it to light and then take it away. So like I need to deal with it so that it can pass, because if I let it sit under the surface, it's going to bubble up and fucking explode. So I need to bring it to light and then let it go. So for instance, this happened yesterday actually. Somebody made me feel like they judged me for like whatever. We went to a family event and I brought my own food.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're like, oh, some people would think that that's rude bringing your own food. And I'm like, first of all, I'm an athlete. I eat every half an hour. It would be extremely rude of me to come over to your house and eat all of your food. I am hungry. If I'm bringing my own food, that's respectful to you because I eat like a freaking machine. And don't judge me for putting a toast in my mouth, okay?
Yeah.
But so I could have let all of these feelings, I could have bottled them up and be like, fine, just judge me, it's fine. But at this point in my life right now, I needed to bring it up. And I was like, why are you judging me? I would like to know why you're placing so much judgment. And it created this big explosion. But it's because otherwise I would have struggled inside, and I don't deserve that for me right now.
Yeah.
So I will show you that what you're doing and placing judgment, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And I'll stand up for that and tell you that I'm allowed to eat my freaking piece of toast.
For sure.
Okay? But at the same time, I stole a moment. I stole what could have just been a nice moment for everyone, and I made it about me. And that's the thing. It's like, do you stand up for yourself and for how you're feeling and for like what's right, because you should not be judging other people for how they want to eat? Or do you bottle up these emotions and let yourself suffer for the greater good? This is the biggest struggle in my life right now. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I mean, I think yeah, me, I always stand up for myself. Like if let's say if I'm on the radio with somebody and I'm talking to somebody like on the air in person,
because that's live.
Yeah, that's live. And like if somebody texts in something completely stupid and says that like I'm terrible, I don't know anything, I will address that. Just like I will address somebody in person. I'm very much like you. I eat, I would say, every like 3 hours. Like I'm on a strict meal plan.
I just eat all the time.
Right. So if I go somewhere and I know that I have to stick to a certain diet and somebody makes a comment, because it has happened before, I clap back at them. I'm like, what do you care? Like, does it affect you? No, move on. Like
move on.
I'm in that mindset when things like that happen, because I don't like when people judge me for anything. Just like I've learned to not judge people for every little thing that they do, because you don't know what that person's going through.
Exactly.
Right? So I think it's kind of the same thing. I think
But then that can get weird though, because
Yeah.
look, yesterday I judged her for judging me. I was like, wow, she's so judgmental. But then that's a judgment.
Exactly. So it's like you can't win in that situation.
Like my brain can't get deeper than that. It's like, who's placing the right judgment? And is there a right judgment, or is there judgment that serves a purpose? Like for instance, genocide is wrong. Well, that's me judging, but that's the right. Like I'm on the right side of history.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, but who am I to say that I'm right in that remark? Evil and good. Well, it's obvious.
It's subjective.
But it's subjective. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very crazy
how
we think about things like that.
What it comes down to for me is I will make the comment if this bottling up is going to affect me on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll do. I'll make the comment. So I don't know, man. What would you like to say for people struggling with depression?
I mean, like if you're somebody who can tell like you have signs that you might be, and you're at the very beginning stage, I would say the most important thing is to acknowledge those feelings and find help. Because if you don't find help and you continue on the path of feeling the way that you do without dealing with it.
What are the signs?
Well, I mean, like when I first started feeling the signs, I wasn't sad all the time. I was manic. So I was up and down and sad and happy. And, you know, any like little thing that would make me happy, I would make it like this huge deal, and it would make me so happy. But then like somebody would make a stupid comment,
Ooh.
and I would drop.
Oh.
You know? So I feel like that was one of my signs.
I'm like that though.
That's
my personality.
Me too, because like I'm like, oh my god, like this person said I did a great job today, and then like the next day I could go to work and somebody would be like, oh well, you could have done this differently, and then I'll go go right down again. And it's like about managing that. But I think if you're somebody who's like that, or even if you are sad and it's like one particular thing that's constantly making you sad every day, to the point where it's affecting your entire life, that's also a symptom. And I really think that you need to reach out for help. And even if it's just like, you know, telling somebody who's really close to you and entrusting that person with your feelings, you know, like, or going to see a therapist. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone seems to think like, oh, I'm crazy or I'm broken. No, you're asking for help. You're actually stronger than you think you are.
Yeah.
So I would say like that would be my advice, is just talk. Because if you talk it out to somebody, it's going to help you feel better.
And I know that it creates a lot of tension in relationships, because Justin and I, when I was going through a really difficult episode of depression, I felt very judged by him, because I was spending a lot of time in bed. I was spending a lot of time upset, but depressed and sad and always crying. And he would ask me things and I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. And he wouldn't understand. And then I would blow up and I'd be like, can you just do research? Can you just do research? You don't understand. Just Google how to deal with someone who's depressed. You never understand. You never take me seriously. You do this, you do that. And then I would put so much blame on him. And I would keep telling him, just do research. You don't understand how to deal with me. No. I'm fucking going through something. I'm depressed. It's a mental illness. You don't get it. You don't think it's real. Like serious stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally it clicked and he did research. And then I was going through an episode and I was just like crying, and I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I just don't feel like you care about me. Sometimes I just feel like you don't take me seriously. And I was like really attacking his character.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about understanding and being with someone who's depressed or whatever is when you do research about it, he spoke to me after and I told him, I'm like, Justin, I'm so sorry about saying those things about you, eh? I don't think that you're like that at all. He's like, oh, I know. I'm like, what? He's like, I did research, and it says that when someone's going through a depressed episode, they'll attack your personality, but they won't mean it. So understand that and be there for them. And that knowledge strengthened our relationship, because I was like, oh my God, you did research about, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. And he understood because he did research. So it's like, if you're struggling with a mental illness, please be vocal to the ones around you about doing research, because you can help them help you.
Absolutely. And I would definitely say, like, in the last 3 years that I've been with my boyfriend, there's been countless times where it's been a strain on our relationship, and I know that. But unlike you, instead of like kind of projecting it onto him, I took it all on myself, and I made myself the bad guy, and that makes you feel worse. And I don't know that he had done any research on it, or he kind of just like tried to figure out how to deal with me on his own. But we all go through, you know, our back and forth of how we deal with things, and eventually we found something that works whenever I'm going through it.
And what are the tips, if you can share? Maybe it'll help us, you know,
Yeah.
maybe it'll help another couple.
Well, I know that when I'm going through something, and like if I'm in bed like shaking, crying, because that's happened before, he'll literally just hold me and tell me like, it's gonna pass, it's gonna pass. He's very sentimental in that way, and he's very soft in that way, and that's actually quite soothing, you know. And my mom has done the exact same thing, and it works. It really works. And I think it's just because I just need somebody in that moment. Like, I'm just somebody who really just like needs a person in that moment to just be there for me until it passes.
Yeah.
And then once it does, they always tell me, you want to talk about it? That's fine.
Leave it up to you.
And then normally I will, but if I don't, then I don't. And then we move on, and it's fine. So I would say, like, if you're with somebody who is going through something like that, you have to kind of almost learn on your own. Like your boyfriend did research, or just...
I was like, please.
Yeah, like, do something.
Help me.
But like, react. Like, react. I think that's the most important thing, is just to react in whatever way you can, because it's going to help.
And it is subjective. You need something different than what I need,
Yeah.
you know? When you're going through an anxiety period, what's the hardest thing? Like, not a panic attack, but like just general anxiety. Do you live with it all the time?
I mean, I think sometimes I would say yes, and sometimes I would say no, because I try to suppress it a lot.
Okay.
And I think that when you do that, it makes it worse. But
Yeah, because I remember in journalism school, or in any freaking presentation aspect, when we're sitting in a circle and then you're like, okay, 7 people away until I talk, 6 people away, 5 people away, oh my God, let this stop, and your heart's like beating really fast. The more that you try to ignore the fact that it's beating really fast, the more it's going to attack you. For me, anyways. Yeah. So the more vocal I am about it, like, okay, there's 2 people away, there's 1 person away, I can't even hardly breathe. Okay, it's my turn. Well, the first thing I'm going to say to get over it is, okay, sorry guys, I'm really nervous about this.
Yeah.
Even just stating that, it's almost like you just brought it up to the surface, expelled it from your body, and now you can speak. But if you're like, well, the first thing I want to talk about is the orange cup, like, and you're actually trying to like divert people away from your real struggles. It's like, the more open you are, the more liberated you will be to just be fully in who you are.
And that's why I talk about it, because I feel like when you do, or when I do, then it's like word vomit. Like, I just get it out, and it's like out, it's gone, and then boom.
Yeah.
But then there are other times where I kind of like chicken out of it, and like that's why I suppress it, because I don't feel like I can talk about it, especially if it's something like very big in my life, and I feel like it's really important, and I don't always feel like I can say something because I don't know how people are going to react.
That's the thing. It's the judgment.
It is. It's 100% the judgment.
It's hard to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I say, like, somebody who's going through that, like, don't just automatically assume that they're sad all the time. You know, like, don't judge somebody. They need help, and you may be that one person that can help them. So don't be so hard on other people.
Have you ever had a moment where you were judged like that?
Yeah. I mean, because I'm very into fitness too.
Oh.
And
what do you do? You do like
I'm more like a bodybuilder type style of lifting. So I was actually going to be prepping to compete, and I don't know how I did this, but I was so strict on it. Lifting, eating when I needed to eat, cardio, and before I got to like the point of no return, when it came to that, people would always judge me. Like, they will look at me and they will be like, well, why are you doing this? Like, you know, you don't have to do this, right? And like, you know, you don't have to bring your own food, and like, it's kind of rude, and like you don't have to, go to the gym every day.
You don't
like,
have to put yourself through all
yeah,
this.
and I'm like, you know what? It's not up to you.
I like it though. Like
Yeah.
I like it. You just don't get it. That I really like it.
Yeah, like leave me alone. And then, see, the point that I'm trying to make here is that when all of this came to an end, like I actually developed a sort of an eating disorder because I went way too hard, and I had probably the worst person on the planet prepping me to do this. I got down to 105 pounds and I was about 8% body fat. So when I came out of that and I reversed diet and I got a lot healthier, I was around 125 pounds and I was feeling better about myself. Then those same people, instead of being like, you know what, good for you for getting out of that, they would turn around and be like, oh, do you remember that time when like you weren't eating? And do you remember that time when you did this, that? And I'm like, and those people still do that today. And I'm like, can you let it go? Like, how important are my struggles to your life that you constantly have to bring them up?
That's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm done with you. Then that's when
and
I just
those
decided
are the people that you cut out.
That I'm like, either that I have cut off or that I'm slowly trying to just like back away from, because those people are just negative and they're not going to help me in the long term, because they're just not going to change their mindset about judging me for me. So goodbye.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And whenever judgment does happen now, it's gotten to a very weird place for me. And I don't know if it's like, I'm trying to do research on it. See, I'm always doing research on it to understand myself better and to understand others better. But like, if someone will place judgment on me, it's almost like I immediately reflected on them and I judge them for judging me, but it's not good. It's not good. So let's say that like, for instance, I was at the gym and I was videoing myself doing a lift, okay? Mm-hmm. And a girl was like, oh, Fiona, you always film yourself. And okay, so I had two personalities. I was like, on one side, I was like, yeah, I really like filming myself. On the other side, I was like, oh, she's so fucking annoying. Why doesn't she just let me film myself? So what came out was, and I told her, I'm like, yeah, because I really enjoy it. I really like filming myself. And it was a nice comment in a very like matter-of-fact way. And it just shut her up right away, because what could she say? I like filming myself. You're going to disagree with what I like?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. But on the other hand, I'm like, now I'm judging her for judging me. I'm like, interesting. Why doesn't she like it when I film myself? I'm like, does she wish she could be more confident? I'm like, does she not like it when other girls get attention over her? But then it creates another snowball of judgment, because the judgment that she just placed on me, I'm now judging her for judging me. I'm like, now I'm looking at you like, oh, you judge for that.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle.
It's a horrible circle. Mm-hmm. And now all this research that I'm doing about judgment is having me judging people more now. Because I'm like, look at them doing this, look at them. But I'm not trying to judge. I'm just trying to understand judgment. Yeah. It's like understanding judgment without actually being the first person attacking. It's like the third person. It's like, okay, judgment exists, but now we are looking from the third person and we are seeing the judgment happen. Yeah. Am I weird? Was that weird? But yeah, so
I think that's actually how everybody thinks. They just don't analyze it as much as we are right now. Yes. But I think that happens to literally everybody every day. Every day.
I wish that we could stop judging each other, but I don't think that it's possible.
It's not possible.
No. Because everything that we do, this nail polish you have, this royal blue, that was a judgment call. Yeah. That was a judgment. This shirt, these leggings that I chose to wear that are going to give me camel toe in this episode, this was a judgment call. You know, like every act that we do comes from judgment. But it's like, there's good judgment and there's bad judgment. Yeah. And I really, if we could like close this episode off with anything, is I believe that both depression and anxiety are stemmed from judgment.
Yeah, whether it's from other people or on yourself. Absolutely.
Because the panic attack that I had was, I believe, induced from self-judgment. And the depression that I have is always coming back when I'm in my own circle alone, judging myself for whatever the fuck. Yeah. So that was a revelation. I'm like, holy shit, judgment is the fucking bad judgment. Bad judgment, yeah. Is the problem for anxiety and depression for me.
And I think, like,
Wow.
even for me, like, now that you say that, I think that's totally it. Because I am such a perfectionist. I know a lot of people are. But I every little thing, it's like, oh, no, Alex, you're wrong. Alex, you're wrong. Like, that's what constantly comes back into my head. So, yeah, you're probably right. It probably just stems from
Judgment.
But even from society, too. Putting
Yeah,
all
dude.
these things in your head,
Yeah,
like, this is what
dude.
you need to be doing.
Yeah,
And,
dude. So that's why we need more people who are promoting less judgment. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Through whatever means, through like social media, through songs, through whatever.
Well, yeah, like if somebody posts like on your picture and leaves some stupid comment about the way that you look or the way that you dress, it's like maybe that person is just so unhappy with themselves, and maybe this is their way of reaching out to you because they need help.
Yup. Okay, I have a couple of questions to close off the podcast.
Yes.
For the person who is going to give up on their dreams, and I asked this question because this podcast, happened when I was in a depressed mode, and I wanted to give up on my biggest dreams. So I want to know what advice would you give, either to yourself or to someone else, to not give up on their dreams?
I would just say that, you have a vision of what you want to do. And clearly, if it's your dream, it's something that you've really invested so much thought in. You got to find a way to fight through everything that you're feeling. And you got to find a way, whatever way that is. You got to just think to yourself, like, I've got this. Like, literally say it to yourself. Like, you know what, girl? I've got this. I've got this. Like, it just, and you know what, when you convince yourself that you can do something, you're gonna do it.
And when your self-talk is that positive and that, it becomes so powerful.
And there's no way that you could not do something. If you just tell yourself, you've got this, you're gonna kill it today, and you're gonna come out of that meeting or out of that audition or whatever, and you're gonna feel so good about yourself. And then once that starts, it'll start snowballing, and then eventually you'll get to where you wanna be. 100%.
Oh, I like that. Okay, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be?
Oh my god, that's so hard. I would probably say invisibility.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, sometimes I'm just like, when you see certain situations, or you can see certain situations happen, you're like, I wish I was a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I wish I could be a fly on the wall. So if I was invisible, I could literally walk into a room and be like in the situation, be like, oh my god, like I can firsthand see what's going on. I feel like that would be so cool.
I think that's interesting because that means that you're really interested in raw, authentic human behavior.
Yeah.
Because we all put on these faces and they're not real. So you want to get to the real, the juice, whether it be like drama or like...
Yeah, like what is this person really like?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Okay. The most important question of them all.
Oh, throw it at me.
What is the meaning of life?
Happiness.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think if you find your true happiness, not just happiness, your true happiness, I think you can be unstoppable, and I think you will truly find the reason that you were put on this earth. And I think that whatever it is, whether you make money off of it or whether you don't,
I love that you said that.
I feel like it just do it and find that true happiness, and it will help you find out who you are, and then you'll truly be free to live your true self.
I love that, girl.
Yeah.
Damn, that's it. Okay, we're closing it out. Peace, Lions. You can follow Alex on all her socials. Alex Sheila.
Yeah, on Instagram, and then I'm at She's A Rob on Twitter.
Ooh, ooh. See you next week, guys, for the next episode. Peace out.